This is the Huey Alert Podcast with Craig and Shelley Huey, bringing you the tools to transform our nation and culture, the intersection of faith and politics.
Hi, it's Craig Huey, the Huey Alert Podcast. I'm so glad you're with us today. And listen, if you notice, I don't have my beautiful bride, Shelley. She'll be on the next podcast, but I am excited because the guest we have for you this week is someone I've known for way over 20 years. And his name is David Tice. And I know David from the investment world. And this man is solid in his understanding of free market economics and understanding of investments and understanding of really how things operate. And I'm glad we have David on because David has a new project with a movie. And it sounds like a very powerful film that I want everybody to know about, and an issue that could affect everybody who's watching or listening. So let me bring David on. David, good to see you again.
So great to see you, Craig. And, I gave you some great compliments when we started to get to know each other again. But like I said, it's been more than 20 years. But Craig's an icon in the marketing business.
Thank you. Yes. And listen, you are now involved in a new movie. And this movie is called what now? It's
Grid Down, Power Up.
Grid Down, Power Up. So grid down, you're talking about the electrical grid?
Exactly.
So what caused you to think in terms of creating a movie about the power grid? What caused that?
Well, I've been a geopolitical student for more than 20 years. I've had the highest ranking spy who ever defected from the Soviet Union in my living room. I'm also a proud grandfather, and a year and a half ago realized I was a NASA grandfather because my grandkids were 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a problem. We have a problem if we don't protect our critical civilian infrastructure. And we are so complacent in America because we're so used to any warfare taking place in Afghanistan, Iraq, Germany, Europe, etc. We don't realize that if we truly get into a bigger skirmish, our bad guys are going to go after our infrastructure right here. And they don't have to land forces here. They can utilize cyber attacks. They can send sleeper cells over here. They can utilize an electromagnetic pulse attack, or even if you don't think the bad guys are that bad, or because there's mutually assured destruction will happen, NASA has said there's about a 12% probability every decade that there will be a big enough solar storm to essentially knock out our transformers and some of our critical civilian infrastructure.
David, you're telling me that our infrastructure is in danger. It's in danger from maybe a natural occurrence, or it could be a cyber attack. It could be somebody who's a criminal. It could be somebody who hates America. It could be an enemy state. It could be communist China. It could be someone who is somehow doing an attack. And you're talking about the electric grid going down. What else could happen in this type of an attack? What could we expect as consumers?
So our power grid is what provides, electricity to our homes, and
Yes.
it keeps our refrigerators on,
Yes.
allows us to charge up our iPhones.
Right.
But it also impacts our municipal water systems, our wastewater systems.
Yes.
And we are just incredibly complacent in America because we think that we turn the light switch on, it goes on. If we have a power outage, it always comes back in, a few hours or a couple days. What happens if it wouldn't come back for 6 months? And
Whoa.
therefore, all the food would spoil in our refrigerator.
You're not talking about hours. You're not talking about days. You're not even talking about weeks. You're talking about months.
I'm talking about months. And that is extremely feasible. That can happen. And our bad guys know how to do it. And we talk in our film, and again, you can learn more about it and see a link to watch the film on YouTube. This is free at gritdownpowerup.com. That Jennifer Granholm, who's the current Secretary of Energy
Right.
under President Biden right now, has said that our adversaries are currently in the grid and they could shut it down, at their leisure.
Wow. David, this is very unsettling. And to hear that we could have 6 months without electricity, maybe 6 months without water. There was a very popular show that many people have watched, and Obama was the executive producer. And people watch this show where this family is in New York, and they go to a house and on an island, and all of a sudden all the electricity is shut off. Is this the type of thing you're talking about?
That's it, exactly. And so the movie's called Leave the World Behind. It was a bestseller on Netflix for a while.
Right.
Barack and Michelle were executive producers. They paid Julia Roberts $25 million to be in the film. It talks about cyber attacks essentially interfering with navigation systems,
Right.
which is essentially the microprocessors, and where airplanes were crashing,
Yes.
oil tankers, ended up, crashing on shore.
Right.
We ended up seeing additionally Teslas where the navigation systems were interfered with and they all crashed in the same spot. And you think about what just happened in Baltimore with the bridge, very suspicious, in my opinion, about how I believe it's really possible the navigation systems were, interfered with,
Right.
causing that crash into that pier, causing that bridge to go out.
Yeah. And of course, the FBI has announced they are investigating, but we'll probably never know the answer. And so here we have a situation where you're describing chaos, and that how does a family survive? Food, water, transportation. You're really talking about something that if it happens, I could see massive riots, massive death, lots of violence, people having to defend themselves from people trying to get food and water, gas. Is this part of what your movie is depicting?
Exactly. And you mentioned earlier about, emotions, and it certainly brings on this emotion of hopelessness and like, I don't want to hear this.
Right.
And we actually have some hopeful steps, and
Good.
we end with a message of patriotism. And this is a case, I know you have very patriotic, Christian viewers and listeners. This
Right.
is something we can fix. And this is why this is such a travesty of justice, that we have not done more. And that's why we need a Mothers Against Drunk Drivers scale movement, where we need to tell our regulators, legislators, members of board of directors of our public utilities, we've got to fix this. And there is equipment out there, that for some total of $5 billion could protect our major transformers and some of our major equipment.
Really?
And so it's just sickening that
Wow.
we've had this paralysis inside the agencies and we haven't done more. And therefore, I really want your viewers to watch the film and tell their friends.
David, this sounds amazing. So you have provided two different tools, it sounds like. You see this movie, and then tool number one, how to protect you and your family. And then tool number two, how to prevent this from happening by contacting the right people to make the right changes to protect us from some type of cyber attack or natural disaster. Is that a good summary?
That's a good summary. And I've literally converted this movie into a movement. And so I have a name for, your listeners. I'd like to convert them to grid warriors,
Okay.
and they can go to their city councilman, for their local cities,
Yes.
and they can talk about, this vulnerability and how we might overcome. I visited a municipal water system in Dallas with a candidate uh, for office, and
Yes.
the person said, "No, we don't have any backup generators for our municipal water systems. We're 100% dependent upon the grid." And
Wow.
it's ridiculous. And therefore, but if each of your viewers just sends the link with one or two sentences, if this film moves you, I only want you to send it if you agree with the premise, you like the film. We have Dennis Quaid narrating. We have pre-written, very professional letters to all these public officials, and then send that to 20, 30 of your friends and implore them to send it to 20 or 30 of their friends.
I love it. David, you have done an incredible work. I can't wait to see the movie with my wife. I'm encouraging everybody to watch this movie and then be part of the movement. So it's griddownpowerup.com. Is that right?
Correct.
Griddownpowerup.com. You'll be able to see this movie. You'll be able then to access how to be able to know how to protect you and your family. And you'll be able to know how to mobilize your local community and state so that hopefully some people with some common sense will start taking care of a major problem. You know, most activity of government these days are things that are not found in the Constitution. Most of the things in government today are counterproductive. They're operated by a bloated bureaucracy. But what you're talking about is that absolute necessary function for the government to protect the citizens. And so it has to be a high priority. David, any last thoughts before we go?
Well, thanks for that great synthesis of that. And you can watch the movie on YouTube, but we have a link on our website, and it's under the participate tab that you can find the letters, and you can make phone calls. You can get directly to the voicemail or the receptionist for your legislators' offices. And let's make this happen. Dennis Quaid narrates this. Dennis Quaid is everybody's hero. He was on Tucker Carlson talking about this at the end of January, but let's make this happen.
Oh, that is awesome. So everyone, it's time to go to Grid Down Power Up, griddownpowerup.com, and see that movie, and it'll give you the instructions of what to do. Well, David, thank you so much. If it's okay with you, would you mind if I prayed for you real quick?
I would love that. This has been a God moment for me in terms of God has guided me in this, and I felt like it was His instruction to get behind, this film.
Okay, Father, thank you so much for David and this work that he has done, and for a time such as this, that he is helping everyone be able to know not only how to protect themselves and their families, but to help change our nation for the better. So, Lord, I pray that you'd just help this film go viral, help this film have a powerful impact, Father, that changes would be made and done that are correct. We just thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, David, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for watching this. Listen, next week, Shelley will be back. But for now, here's what you can do. Take this podcast, send it out to your friends, your neighbors, the people on your email list, on Facebook, whatever media you have. Send this out to your kids, to your grandkids. Send this out. Have them watch this movie, see this podcast, watch the movie, and let's make some changes. So until next week, thanks again for watching, and God bless you all.
Thanks for joining us this week. We are listener-supported, so please consider partnering with us by donating at craighuey.com or by signing up for our free newsletter. We look forward to being with you next week. And don't forget to share this podcast with others.